Welcome to the Self-Trust Solution, the podcast for entrepreneurs, leaders, and high achievers who are done second-guessing and ready to execute with clarity. I'm your host, Donna Eade, the Self-Trust Coach, and each week I'll help you build the one strategy that makes all others work, self-trust. This is where bold goals meet grounded action. Let's dive in. You know that feeling when you know your message matters, but you're stuck wondering how to actually get it heard? Or when you feel that tug to do something bold, like start a podcast, but second guess if you're ready, if it's worth it, or if you'll follow through? In this episode, we're talking about the surprisingly strategic and self-trust fueled path of podcasting with someone who's coached hundreds of hosts and walked the talk through over 300 episodes of her own. Welcome back. Today, I'm joined by the brilliant Donna Eade, podcast mentor, business strategist, and host of the Mindset in Action podcast. Donna helps women in business amplify their voice and impact through the power of podcasting. And she's here to share why this might be just the clarity and confidence tool you've been waiting for. Welcome, Donna.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We are excited to hear from you because you help women in business amplify their voices through the power of podcasting. So we have listeners who are entrepreneurs and leaders in various industries from hospitality to wellness. What might you encourage them to consider, or why might you encourage them to consider, rather, a podcast?
I think for anybody looking at amplifying their message, podcasting is a great way to do it. And whether that is as a guest or as a host, there are so many more advantages to being the host, though. So I will talk about it in terms of that. But just know that guesting is a really good way of getting your message out there, especially in those industries. It's just a great way of sharing your message and getting it to a wider audience quickly. But as a host, you have the advantage of you're controlling the narrative. You're not beholden to a host asking you questions that you might think, oh my goodness, I wasn't prepared for that. You can tell your story the way you want to tell it and have it come across the way you want to tell it. You're not beholden to somebody else editing you. You're not tying yourself to any of those kind of things. So you have full control over the story that is coming out the way you want to tell it. So if you're in the wellness space, it's a great opportunity for you. There are so many great podcasts out there already, but the industry is growing and it is so small in comparison to things like YouTube or the blog sphere. Like there's 600 million blogs on the internet. But that's a lot of noise to compete with. In comparison, podcasts, there's only 5 million-ish in total. And of those, only about 500,000 are actually active, which means that there is still so much room for growth for every genre of podcast category. So yeah, I would just say it is a massive opportunity, and especially if you're getting in now.
I love those stats because it really does highlight that if someone is thinking there's just too many podcasts, there's just too much to listen to, why would I ever start one? That's pretty astounding. 600 million blogs versus 500,000 active podcasts.
Yeah.
How does podcasting, in your opinion, increase authority, so to speak, or expertise?
So the great thing about having a podcast of your own is that it is continually building your authority, because we're all learning all the time. We are creatures of learning. I think it's so funny how many people turn around and say, I love learning, because I just think it is a human built-in thing that we are just constantly learning. So as business owners, we're constantly learning, we're constantly growing, we're constantly trying to absorb more information about our niche. And by telling us, and I don't know whether you ever did this at school when you were like doing your exams and stuff, but actually trying to teach or tell somebody else what you know clarifies it for you and embeds it in you. So podcasting, in effect, is that you're relearning what you already know, which solidifies it and helps build your confidence. I had a client come to me. She started a podcast with a friend in the wellness space. And the thing that she said to me after the first few months of podcasting that really made her go, wow, this was so worth it, was how much confidence it gave her in the knowledge that she had. And I thought that was beautiful. And just by telling people again and again your message will strengthen, it will solidify, it will get tighter, and it will just become this mantra for you. And you will have so much confidence in it because you've spoken about it so many times.
Absolutely. I love that. What you just said, what came to me is this is just another way of building connection and trust with yourself. Like
Yeah.
by saying these things out loud, not only are you helping others with knowledge that you have that they may not, but also you're reminding yourself, like, this is information that I know. And how generous am I that I want to share it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome.
It's so beautiful. So, what are the advantages of a podcast over, say, video or blogs?
So I think podcasting is the best medium of the three. Obviously, my personal preference as well. But for me, it's the least, the one you have to get ready for, the least in comparison to video. You don't have to put makeup on. You don't have to have a video podcast. I don't. And I have plenty of clients that don't do video podcasting. So you don't have to do video podcasting, even though you might be watching this, even though you may have watched other people do video podcasts, Diary of the CEO. Just because it's on video doesn't mean you have to. And I think actually the audio experience is so much better. So you don't have to get ready for it, which is an advantage. For people who are dyslexic, and I call myself keyboard dyslexic because give me a pen and paper and I can spell perfectly fine, but put a keyboard in front of me and my spelling goes absolutely up the wall. I don't know what happened, but I've coined it keyboard dyslexia. So if you struggle with writing in any way, whether it's dyslexia or just in general, then, that puts blogs out. But talking is something that generally most of us are doing on a daily basis, every day, whether it's with our clients, with our family. It's something that comes very naturally. So therefore, you've already got an advantage there. And then the other thing about it is with podcasting, you are getting this really intimate experience with your listener. So where a video is going to be drawing people's attention with everything that's in the background, what have they got on their walls? Where's that cat going? Is that a dog I heard barking in the background? All of those kind of things that happen in video. You haven't got any of those distractions and you're hearing the person's voice. And what that does is it creates this really intimate connection, because I don't know about you, Dawn, but how many people I let into this circle that's like this 3-foot circle around me is a very small number. And the fact is that when you're a podcaster, you jump that circle, you get straight into somebody's ears, because the majority of the time people are listening through headphones. So it's like something like 80% of people who listen to podcasts listen on their mobile device, which generally means they've got their headphones in, they're washing up, they're doing the gardening, they're running the kids about, they're going for a run, they're at the gym, all of those things. And how many people do you let whisper in your ear? Probably only a handful. So as podcasters, we jump that trust barrier. We get to speak to those people really intimately, and it helps to amplify that known trust factor really quickly.
Creating more connection in a world where we have created a lot of disconnect. Podcasting seems to be this, I like the idea of whispering in the ear of someone else and really just sharing intimately information that they want to know or stories they want to hear about.
Yeah. It is beautiful. And I love it for that fact. It is a parasocial relationship still, because you aren't having that connection with your audience so much, but you don't get that with blogs or videos either. So it is always this kind of one-way thing. And then you have to bring them into your world so that you can get that back from them. So whether it's asking them to come and join your Facebook group or get on your email list so you can start two-way conversations with your listeners. There's also like private podcast feeds, or you could do live videos that people could come and join and things like that. So there are lots of ways of building it to be a two-way connection, but the one-way connection is almost instant, because I don't know on your podcast, Dawn, but I often mention little personal snippets here and there in my podcast of things that I've been up to and things like that. So people are getting to know me through my podcast. And so they feel like they know me. So when they meet me in real life, I actually had it. I had that real life moment of meeting a listener who I didn't know in the wild. And she came and she goes, I listen to your podcast all the time. And it was the most beautiful experience. And she was just so thankful and so grateful for what I had shared with her. But she just felt connected to me and felt comfortable coming up to me and saying that because she felt like she knew me. So after I got over the little bit of an unnerving, I have no idea who you are, and realized that she was a listener, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is cool. It was really lovely.
That's so fun. What is your podcast about for our
So
listeners that are definitely curious now?
My podcast is called Mindset and Action. It's a business podcast to help you grow and streamline your business. So we talk about 4 pillars over there: audience building, planning, productivity, and mindset.
And podcasting is obviously a good piece of that visibility.
Yeah, so that's what I talk about. When I talk about audience building, I'm usually talking about podcasts, but I do bring in other experts to talk about other ways of building your audience. But yeah, absolutely. I talk a lot about podcasting over there as well.
If our listeners are interested, just should I do a podcast, or how can they help themselves make that decision, or where should they start?
So, a great episode for them to listen to is episode 294 of my podcast. I recently released that one, and it is all about the 5 top tips of starting a podcast in 2025. So, it will still have meaning if you're listening to this in 2026. Still go ahead and listen to it. It will still mean the same thing. But the first thing I talk about in there is having a strategy behind your podcast. So, it's all good and groovy getting swept up in this. Oh, yeah, I'll start a podcast. My friend's got a podcast. This business owner's got a podcast. Yeah, I'll do a podcast, but not really understanding why you're doing it. So it's really important to understand that. And I believe that every business should have a pillar content, whether that's video, podcast, blog, that you should have a pillar piece of content that you're putting out, preferably on a weekly basis. But if you can't manage weekly, then as long as it's consistent, that's a good idea. And putting it out there on a weekly basis just allows you to connect with your audience again. So I think just having that strategy, knowing what it is that you want out of the podcast. Are you building your audience? Is it just for visibility? Is it brand awareness? What do you want to use it for? And then you can start putting things in place that are going to help you to achieve that, because anybody could go out there and just start recording a podcast and put it out there, and it's going to do absolutely diddly squat for you unless you have a plan behind it. So make sure that you are thinking, how is this going? Am I going to monetize my podcast? Is that the purpose of it? Is it another revenue stream? Is it something I want to lead people into my business? Therefore, what are my calls to action going to be? When am I going to talk about them? How often am I going to talk about it? How am I going to link my episodes to those call to action so that I can make sure that I'm mentioning it enough and really getting people moving through your funnel? I like to think of a podcast as a top of funnel item. So it's a way to bring the broadest scope of your audience together for them to self-filter through to actually becoming your clients.
Excellent. You also have a master class called Understanding the Power of Podcasting.
I do. It's about an hour long. It's absolutely free to download on demand, but it does go through the process of understanding what a podcast is and how it works and how it might help you in your business. So that is free for anybody who wants to go and download it and have a listen.
So there you have it. 2 amazing resources. If you're even considering podcasting or curious about how it could really work for you, so go to episode number
294.
294. And also definitely be sure to check out Understanding the Power of Podcasting, and we'll have the link in the show notes. Thank you so much, Donna, for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
What will you take away from today's episode? Here are a few highlights that stood out for me. Podcasting builds self-trust. Speaking your message repeatedly clarifies your thinking. It strengthens your voice and reinforces what you already know to be true. It's still an untapped space. With only about 500,000 active podcasts versus 600 million blogs, podcasting is not oversaturated. there's room for your voice. You don't need a studio or script. Podcasting is intimate, flexible, and accessible, especially compared to video or blog content. And finally, strategy is the secret. Without a plan, a podcast won't move the needle, but with one, it becomes a top of funnel powerhouse for visibility, trust, and growth. If podcasting has been on your radar or even just a whisper in the back of your mind, I hope today's conversation gave you the clarity and confidence to explore it further. Your voice matters, and it may be the exact thing that helps someone else take their next step. To dive deeper, go listen to episode 294 of Donna's Mindset in Action podcast and check out her free masterclass, Understanding the Power of Podcasting. We'll link it in the show notes. And be sure to tune in next week for a solo episode where I break down a hot take, why affirmations might be fracturing your self-trust, not building it, and what actually works instead. Until then, trust yourself enough to speak your truth and follow through on what matters. Inside every goal is a decision, an action, an evaluation, and an adjustment. Keep building your rhythm with the Self-Trust Solution. Subscribe, leave a review, and explore how we can work together at theselftrustcoach.com. I'll see you in the next episode.